Good evening, it's meteorologist Michael Fecca. Welcome back to the 9 p.m. all-weather, all-streaming show we do here every night during the workdays and on weekends. And today, of course, a special edition because it is a first alert weather day. We are on alert here for that winter storm that has been underway here on the tri-state or in the tri-state for the last several hours. I did have a really nice Skycam image to show you here, but it doesn't look like it wants to load for me today. So we're just going to get right into the radar. Obviously, the storm had started to move in earlier today. We had some snow move in late in the morning and then continue throughout the afternoon. We did hit a little bit of a lull there over the last couple of hours where the snow kind of broke up a little bit, but now it's going to start to fill back in. So you can see just how widespread this storm system is. Again, still bringing snow and ice to portions of Texas, as well as snow now pushing into portions of the East Coast. So a very expansive storm system. We're caught kind of right in the crosshairs here in the tri-state. So taking a closer look at what's going on here at home in terms of our radar. Again, we're looking at pretty much just some snow beginning to fill back in across the tri-state. And where you see those darker blues is where we're seeing some of those heavier snowfall rates fill in. So I can take a tour of the radar and kind of show you where we're seeing some of the heavier bands beginning to set up. We'll start off in the north. We've got a heavier band now kind of just setting up along the very northern edge of the tri-state right now, and that includes Wayne, Edwards, Wabash, Gibson, Pike, and Du Bois County. You're all getting a good hit of snow from this band. It's indicated there by those darker blue colors. And then we've got some pockets of some heavier snow now beginning to fill in from southwest to northeast. We've got a nice little pocket of heavier snow kind of moving in over the Henderson area. We've got another pocket of snow off to the southwest where we're seeing heavier rates there in Sturgis and in Providence. So again, the storm system continues to ramp up here, especially through the overnight hours. Now, in terms of any forecast changes, not necessarily any changes, but it does look like, at least in terms of that sleet or freezing rain potential, that has become a little bit more clear. Again, not really changing anything here in the forecast. We're still expecting mostly snow for a lot of the tri-state here, but for folks up to around Owensboro and south, that's where you could see some of that sleet mix in, and even farther south through very southern portions of Hopkins, Muhlenberg, and Ohio County, you may even have that potential for sleet and a little bit of some freezing rain. Not a huge amount, not ice storm level of freezing rain, but just enough to continue to make things slick and a little bit worse out there. So regardless, hopefully, you've been prepared here over the last day or so. You've gone out, you've hunkered down now. You're at a place where you're going to stay at least through tomorrow because the storm continues to ramp up overnight and into tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning probably going to be the worst of this entire system. So here's a look at the play-by-play here. We're getting some of that heavier snow beginning to fill back in across the tri-state here. And as that heavier snow fills in, that's when we'll start to see some of that sleet kind of mix in very, very far southern portions of the tri-state into the overnight hours. But then as we get into very early tomorrow morning around 3-4 a.m., that's when we start to see that sleet line make its way up a little bit more to the north, closer up towards Owensboro per se. And it's still sleeting, maybe a little bit of freezing rain just to the south of the tri-state at that point. But then by the time we get into Sunday morning, 5-6 o'clock, we're going to start to see this low pressure system kind of wrap itself up and push off to the east. And that's going to pull colder air back in across the tri-state. So you'll watch that mix line drop to the south again. So it's a very brief period where we see that potential for that sleet and a little bit of freezing rain, but we're still expecting mostly snowfall here across the entire tri-state, and a good amount of it at that. It doesn't look like this system really wraps up here entirely until around dinner time tomorrow. We should be fully in the clear here, still dealing with the clouds and the bitter cold, which I'll get to in just a moment. But I do want to talk about the sleet and the freezing rain. Again, we're not expecting a ton of sleet and freezing rain. We're only expecting a little bit. At most, what that's going to do is going to take down some of those snow totals, but we've already accounted for that in our snowfall forecast. So that's why we haven't really changed anything. It's just become a little bit more clearer now as the storm continues to progress. We could see maybe a ½ an inch of sleet up towards the Owensboro area, a little bit more to the south, maybe up to an inch of sleet. And again, that is not freezing rain. Sleet is ice pellets. It's essentially a frozen raindrop. Freezing rain it falls as rain and then it freezes on contact. That's where you get that glaze. That's that really treacherous, heavy stuff that causes a mess. So sleet, a lot nicer than freezing rain. But in terms of that potential for freezing rain accretion, again, it's across the very far southern portions of the tri-state there in Hopkins and Muhlenberg County. I think maybe most of us, or most of you guys down here, end up with a glaze, but it is possible you end up with closer to 1/10 of an inch. And I think in some areas, especially south of the tri-state, you'll end up closer to 1/4 of an inch there. So again, not a huge amount of ice, but just enough to just make things a little bit worse out there. But if you've already planned on staying inside regardless this weekend, that really shouldn't make much of a difference in how this impacts you. So looking at our snowfall forecast again, remains unchanged here. We're still looking at the jackpot of this snowstorm essentially kind of lining up right along the Ohio River and just to the north there through this kind of fuchsia colored. That's where we have the potential of 10 plus inches, possibly even over 1 foot in some locations is certainly possible. I don't think that's going to be necessarily a super common occurrence, but I definitely think it'll be possible out there. So definitely a lot of snow headed our way still. I've seen a lot of comments saying, they're kind of disappointed with how this snowstorm is coming together so far, but I'm telling you, it really ramps up here overnight. And even just within the next hour or two, we could pick up an additional 1 to 2 inches of snow across the tri-state before things really take off headed into tomorrow morning. This is waking up at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And this, I will add, is additional on top of what we've already seen. So this isn't the final, this is the additional amounts of snow. Now again, I think some of these numbers up here are going to be a lot more inflated. But I still think, again, a lot of us are going to end up anywhere between 8 to 12 inches of snowfall, with some folks maybe over 1 foot in a few locations, especially north of the Ohio River. So hopefully no one's disappointed in the amount of snow they've seen so far, because it really will pile up here overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning. And that's why we recommend you guys really just stay at home at this point. Hopefully you made all of your preparations, anything you need to stay down and hunker down for the next couple of days, or at least through tomorrow. You have those resources and you're at a place where you're not needing to go anywhere. We've seen a lot of church closing for tomorrow. We've seen a lot of businesses close through tomorrow, and schools are even starting to close through next week. And if you want that list, you can find that on our website with any closings. And if you're somebody who wants to add closings to our website, you can do that as well. But going over some winter weather driving tips. Again, we don't recommend anybody be on the roads here tonight or tomorrow, but obviously you can't escape it sometimes. People have to get somewhere. You want to make sure you're clearing all the snow off of your car. Don't drive too fast. You need to be driving at least 10 to 15 miles below the speed limit. And you want to give yourself extra space between you and the vehicle in front of you. Don't use cruise control, and make sure if you start to slide, don't panic. Just take your foot off the gas, let the car coast for a second, and then try and gently turn the wheel in the direction that you want to go. Because if you panic, you turn the wheel too fast, you slam on the brake, you accelerate too quick, and that's how you really spin out of control. So please, just if you can, stay home and chill out and watch a good movie and just hang out with your family or your friends. And then when the snow is all over, you get to go out and play in it. But I will talk about some of the dangers of playing in the snow with this kind of cold in a moment. But I also really want your guys' help. As this storm kind of progresses overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning, we're here in the station. We don't really get to see what's going on the ground across the entire tri-state, but that's where you guys come in. That's where we really want your help. We would love to see your reports, your pictures, and anything like that, but we want to make sure you're submitting high quality reports to us. So here's how you properly measure snowfall. We've gone over this a couple of times, but I'm going to go over it again. Step 1 is the time you measure the snowfall. You want to measure as soon as the snow stops falling to avoid any sort of melting or settling or drifting that could affect your potential total. Step 2, you want to find a good location. You don't really want to pick, a big mound of snow to stick your ruler down in, or you don't want to pick, a big divot in the snow where you're seeing some grass to measure your snow. You want to pick more of a flat area that looks like it would appear to be the average depth of the snow across the entire area. Now, once you've selected your location, your measuring tool, you want to use a sturdy measuring stick such as a ruler or a yardstick. And when you put it down, you don't want to push all the way down, because then you push it down into the grass and the dirt, and we don't really want that either. So just gently push it into the ground and record your total to the nearest 1/10 of an inch. Now you want to take multiple measurements, at least 3, in the same area. Again, you want to pick several locations that look like it's the average depth of the snow, and then when you get all those totals, you average them together, and then you send us a beautiful report. And we would love also some pictures as well, and you can send those pictures of the snow from your location by using our app. You can submit it to us through our website as well. The app and the website are going to be easiest to submit those photos, and they'll be able to go directly to us. So we really appreciate it if you're able to do that safely. Just go outside of your house. Don't go anywhere special. Just, take a picture outside the window, go to the deck, go to the backyard, stick your ruler in, and give us a nice little report there. All right. So that's part 1 to the alert. That's the snow, the precipitation that's ramping up overnight. Okay. Pardon, I'm reading some of the comments and also trying to catch my breath. I just talked a lot. All right. Paul asked if you could explain if there is a difference or similarities between a winter storm warning and thunderstorm warning. Well, they're a huge difference. They're 2 completely different things. Winter storm warning would mean, we've got a massive winter storm on the way with snow, ice, or sleet, and cold temperatures, whereas a severe thunderstorm warning, that's more of an isolated thing. You don't really get warnings for half of the country with severe thunderstorms. You could get a watch, but those actual warnings are for those particular cells of those thunderstorms. So that's kind of the main differences between at least the warnings. Merv Fisher says the highway outside of Albion looks pretty snowy currently. Yeah, that was one thing we were watching, as we progressed through this afternoon. I kind of got in as that snow was just starting, and it was sticking to the roads, but it was light enough and powdery enough to where it was just kind of blowing across the roadways. It wasn't really staying put on the roadways. It was kind of banking up on the sides. Now that the snow is coming down at a little bit of a heavier pace, and the snow characters are going to change a little bit as well. It becomes a little bit wetter and heavier overnight tonight, especially as that warm nose lifts in from the south. So that is going to create just a different kind of driving conditions in general. So please, please, please be careful out there. Okay. Looks like, Emma Rowland says, think we could see any thunder snow in western Kentucky. Yes, I was actually looking at a couple of models that unfortunately we don't have here within the system, but outside of our graphics system, you can look at a product called Lightning Flash Density, and some of the models do put that potential for some thunder across the tri-state at the time that it's supposed to be snowing. So that potential for thunder snow does exist. All right. So I think that's most of the questions I'm seeing so far. So again, we're getting mostly snow here. It really ramps up overnight tonight. We'll see that transition or a mix with some sleet across western Kentucky up to about Owensboro, and south is where you have that best chance of mixing with sleet. And then across the very far southern portions of Hopkins, Muhlenberg, and Ohio County, that's where you have the potential for some of that freezing rain accretion. Again, not expecting any kind of ice storm level of freezing rain there, but just enough to make things a little bit more slick than they already are. So most of us get snow, western Kentucky, mostly snow, some sleet and freezing rain thrown into the mix overnight tonight. But overall, still a massive, impactful storm system. Now, the other part of this storm is the cold, and you'll already notice it out there. It's freezing. It is 13 degrees right now here in Evansville, and we've hung out in the teens all day long. These numbers haven't really changed all that much. It's around 11 in Fairfield, all of us getting into some of that snowfall there, but with the very lightest breeze, it still makes it feel a lot colder out there. 0 is what it feels like in Henderson, 4 below there in Fairfield. So this cold air only gets worse, especially after the storm clears out of here. So once we get rid of one problem, we have another to deal with. So we have cold weather alerts extending from Texas all the way up through the Ohio River Valley. We currently have a cold weather advisory in place now for those sub-zero wind chills of anywhere in the single digits. And then that cold weather advisory is set to expire, and then this is set to go into effect Monday at midnight. So early Monday morning into Tuesday till around 10 a.m. So Monday and Tuesday look like the coldest time beyond this storm system. So let's take a look at exactly those temperatures. Right now we're hanging out in the teens. Tomorrow we'll also hang out in the upper teens, but by the time we get into Monday, our actual air temperature will be around 0 waking up Monday morning and around -1 waking up Tuesday morning. So when you factor in just a little bit of a breeze, that makes such a huge difference. And waking up tomorrow morning, it's going to feel similar to what it does out there right now, but you'll notice this huge drop in those temperatures by the time we get into Monday morning, and it'll feel potentially like the teens below 0. As much as 20 below 0 is a possibility for the start of next week. And the same thing there on Tuesday. So it is going to get dangerously cold, bitter cold, and you guys need to take that very seriously. A lot of times we just kind of brush off cold because, you know, it's not like it's falling from the sky, and it's not like it's a massive swirling tornado that's heading towards you. It's just cold, but if you are unprepared for it and it catches you off guard, that could be a problem. So we want you to remember the 3 P's of cold safety: people, pets, and pipes. People, you want to check on your friends and your neighbors, especially elderly folks and those living alone. Make sure that their heat is working. Make sure that they have all the supplies that they need. Make sure that they have some food in the event that we do see a power outages. Again, not expecting power outages. However, you know, you could get a erroneous driver that slides off the road and maybe knocks the power out to your neighborhood, and now you're stuck in the dark. So while we're not expecting widespread long-term power outages, a few isolated outages here and there can really cause a problem, especially in this cold. So check on your people. Pets, you want to bring your pets indoors if possible and ensure that they have a warm shelter and fresh water, especially the fresh water. Arden was really driving that home earlier today. With temperatures this cold, if your animals have to stay outside, say they're farm animals, and you're putting water out there, it's going to freeze pretty quickly. So you kind of have to really keep on top of providing fresh water for those animals. And your pipes, you want to make sure you're running at least a trickle of water through your pipes, especially if your pipes run on the outside of your house. That's where they're most likely to freeze. And it also helps if you open up the cabinets under the sink as well. So that allows the heat within your home to actually filter into the pipe through the cabinet and help or prevent it from freezing. So those are just some tips out there. The 3 Ps is what we call that. Now, a few other tips, just generally indoors, you want to make sure that your carbon monoxide detectors and your heating systems are working properly. If you're going to be using supplemental heating to heat your home like a space heater, make sure you're using it safely. Keep it away from any flammables. You want to run a trickle of water to prevent your pipes from freezing, and of course, always have an emergency kit prepared for any weather situation. Blankets, flashlight, and food will always be good options. Now, if you're going to be outside, which we don't recommend, but we know a lot of kids are going to be really excited to play in this snow, even some adults. I know a lot of you guys really want to go sledding and make snowman and all that, but you really, really have to be careful. It is going to be very cold out there. You need to dress in multiple layers, at least 3 on the top and on the bottom. You want to cover any and all exposed skin with a hat, gloves, and scarf, and a face mask, and you want to do everything you can to stay dry. And especially for those kids, you need to limit the time outdoors. Again, I know they want to play in it, but really you should be taking breaks every 15 minutes to bring them inside and warm them up if they really want to get out there and play in it that bad. So that is what we're looking at there in terms of this whole entire system. So looking at the 7-day forecast here, we remain on alert through tomorrow for that snowfall, and then alerts for Monday and Tuesday have added Tuesday morning now, included in that alert day for those bitterly dangerous cold temperatures that I was just talking about. And that does look fairly quiet through much of next week. We'll have another frontal boundary pass overhead by Wednesday. That may bring us another chance for a few spotty snow showers, but not a snowstorm at this point. Don't really think it will turn into one. So nothing really too crazy to worry about once this storm system clears out, at least through the next 7 days. So that is all I've got here for the forecast. Going ahead and checking out the comments right now. A lot of people just saying they're thankful for these updates. You're very welcome. Laura says she's ready for warmer weather. Lois is asking, how is the wind from the east and the storm is coming from the west? Well, that is because a storm system is an area of low pressure. In areas of low pressure, what happens is winds spin counterclockwise around an area of low pressure. So if our area of low pressure is coming in from the west and you have winds that want to go towards it and turn counterclockwise, it's coming in from the west, you live here, your wind is going to be attracted to that low. So your wind's going to be coming in from the east, flowing towards that low. Wind always flows from high pressure to low pressure. So that's kind of why the storm system moves in from the west, but you're getting winds out of the east. All right, that is all I'm seeing here. So I'm going to hop off the live stream again. I'll send you guys over to 14 News at 10 for all the latest news and weather headlines. Until then, everybody, stay safe. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll be back here again tomorrow morning. Byron Douglas will be back in here early again, likely going to be doing some form of streaming before they actually air an 8 o'clock show on 14 News tomorrow morning. So we're doing a special edition of Sunrise. So Mitch will be here anchoring. I believe Casey will be out in the Interceptor, and of course Byron will be there tracking out the rest of the storm in the morning, and then me and Jeff will be back in here again tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening to continue to provide you guys with updates as the storm starts to wind down by tomorrow evening. So that is the plan going forward here, so I'm going to send you off, and I'll see you again soon.